Published 1753 est. The 15th of November 2017. Updated 1821 est. The 15th of November 2017. The wife of a British explorer who has vanished searching for a remote tribe says the three children keep asking when's daddy coming home. Benedict Allen has failed to return from the Papua New Guinea jungle following a solo expedition to find the last people on the planet who have no contact with the outside world. His family say they are all extremely stressed because he did not start his journey home on Sunday as planned. And they are also very cross with the 57-year-old for refusing to take a phone, a GPS tracking device. Friends plan to scramble a helicopter to search for Mr. Allen amid fears he may have got lost, been bitten by a snake, otherwise been injured or contracted malaria, which he has suffered from in the past. The Czech-born wife of missing explorer Benedict Allen, Lenka, with her children, Natalia 10, Fred 7 and Beatrice 12. Allen's agent said the tribe he was searching for were a scary, remote and reclusive group, and possibly headhunters. His wife, Czech-born former nurse Lenka Allen, 35, said she had told their children, Natalia, 10, Fred, 7, and Beatrice, 2, that daddy's lost. She added, the little one, Beatrice, is always saying daddy and shes trying to telephone him on my mobile, looking at his photo on the screen. They all sense the tension in the flat and they're worried deep down. The couple at the Harvest Help charity film launch at the Fleming Hotel, London. Two other ones. They are saying, when is daddy coming so we can go shopping, just me and you, and daddy can babysit, that sort of thing. But of course now they know HES in danger, they are seriously worried. The couple recently moved from their home in Richmond, southwest London, to spend a year living in Prague, where Mrs. Allen is up all night anxiously awaiting news of her husband from the other side of the world. It could be he is still tricking an HES fine, she said. But of course everything possible is going through my head, that something has happened to him or HES got malaria. Mrs. Allen said her husband has got lost several times in previous expeditions, but not since settling down and having children. He has been so careful since I married him. He hasn't done anything this scary and slightly reckless. It's the first time that he has gone on his own, she said. He hasn't really shared his plans with me either, or with anyone else, so we don't really know the route he was taking on the way back. It's really scary. That helps done this. I suppose I should have asked for more details, but he just made it like it's all safe before he went off. He doesn't take modern technology because he thinks it spoils the experience, and he can rely on his knowledge of nature and his abilities because he could always just telephone for a helicopter, which is too easy. To an extent it makes sense, but it is a dangerous way of exploring. Mrs. Allen said there had been a possible sighting at a mission station. It was some local person. We are not getting up our hopes. It could be someone else. It is positive having this sort of news. We don't want to get excited, but hopey someone has seen him. He's out there alive, hopey. Lenka with the couple's two eldest children, 10-year-old Natalia and 7-year-old Freddie, am trying to stay positive and hope it's all going to end up well. And he will come out of the jungle soon. Maybe he miscalculated the distance HES going to have cross on the way back, or there could be obstacles. He does know Papua New Guinea and has got contacts there. He got lost there a few years ago, she added. The local police have limited resources. Things happened slowly there. They don't have the resources to go into the jungle and look properly. It's more a question of contacting everyone and getting the word round, so I've got all the hopes, thinking that he is safe and he will manage as he has always done. He does know a lot about the jungle, that's what I'm assuming, but he talks more to his explorer colleagues about the jungle than me. We talk about boring stuff at home. What's for dinner? Mr. Allen's older sister, Katie Pestle, said Lenka is being very brave, but we are both very cross with him. It is typical of him to go off without GPS. If he had that, people would know where to find him. Unfortunately, that is not Benedict's style. He likes to do things the hard way, but he's done loads of expeditions in the past and he knows how to survive. He knows what plants can be eaten and which ones can be used as medicines, and he carries a survival belt with him. Benedict Allen during his expedition to Papua New Guinea. Ms. Pestle, 62, an English teacher at a comprehensive in Bath, said she believed her brother would be safe with the Yafo, a tribe he discovered in Papua New Guinea 30 years ago and was hoping to reach again this time. But she was worried about others he might have encountered on his trip. "You think these jungles are empty, but all sorts of people live there. In the past he has come across drug barons and loggers. It's an awful worry. If they came across him they could have robbed him and just left him there." Mrs. Pestle, of Frome in Somerset, is in hourly contact with her brother's wife but said the wait for news had been ghastly. "We can't do anything. For everyone else it's very exciting, all the expeditions and all the things he does, but for a sister and a wife it's very worrying, wondering if he is going to be all right," she said. The helicopter pilot, who dropped Mr. Allen off several weeks ago at the start of the expedition, is trying to find him by tracking a route from his starting point at the remote former trading station of Visoria. BBC security correspondent Frank Gardner, a friend of the explorer who travelled to Papua New Guinea with him twice last year, told the BBC that Mr. Allen should be fine. But he added, "I hope those aren't famous last words." Benedict always suspected something like this. "I had supper with him just before he left, and he said, look, I'm quite certain he'll be out of contact for quite some time. People shouldn't worry about it." The Yafo tribe, who Benedict visited in the 1980s, initially greeted him with suspicion and hostility but then accepted him. "He told me last month, just before he set off, that he had no idea how they would receive him, or even if he would be able to find them in such a remote part of the country. He even ate his own dog to survive in the Amazon." How missing explorer Benedict Allen is very much a Victorian type of adventurer by Guy Walters. Benedict Allen's journey across East Anglia next week would have presented little challenge for such a seasoned explorer. His plan was to give a talk at the King's Lynn Festival on a topic he knows very well, the jungle peoples of Papua New Guinea. But the chances of the 57-year-old making it to Norfolk now look slim, because he has vanished in the very country he was supposed to be speaking about. Although many are alarmed, those who have followed Allen's travels through some of the most inhospitable parts of the planet over the past 30 years are more sanguine. After all, he has eaten his dog to avoid starving in the Amazon, been shipwrecked canoeing to Australia, been shot at by drugs hitmen, sewn up a chest wound in Sumatra with a boot-mending kit, trekked more than 600 miles in the far east of Russia during the worst winter in living memory, and even more impressively still, survived sharing the bed of Jerry Hall. Mr. Allen survived by eating his own dog during a 1982 trek across the Brazilian rainforest. "The chances are that Benedict is going to be fine," said his friend and former traveling companion, BBC security correspondent Frank Gardner yesterday. Unlike many other of today's so-called adventurers and explorers, Allen likes to travel without the creature comforts of a television crew, satellite telephones, or a sneaky night or two in a five-star hotel. He is very much in the mold of a Victorian adventurer, keen to explore the world almost out of a sense of dynastic duty. "Wanderlust was my family inheritance," he once said. "My family mapped the tropical belt. They fought in it, they built bridges from across it, they edited newspapers and invited Rudyard Kipling out for his first job in it, they flew over it, they wrote books about it, they planted tea on hills of it, raised near Woodford Airfield in Cheshire." Allen's father was a test pilot for the Vulcan bomber. The family later moved to Buckinghamshire, where he attended prep school before going to Bradfield Public School in Berkshire. "It was a very supportive environment for a nonconformist like me," Allen reflected. His appetite for adventure was fired by studying environmental science at the University of East Anglia. "We went to a volcano in Costa Rica and to Brunei, and I headed the university expedition to Iceland," he recalled. After working in a warehouse to raise cash, at 23 the fledgling explorer flew to South America to traverse the 600 miles from the mouth of the Orinoco River to the mouth of the Amazon. Whatever Allen's fate in Papua New Guinea, he will always be remembered for that adventure back in 1983, for the stark and simple reason that he ate a dog he had adopted. Named Cashew, after the native name for dog, the faithful brown and white mongrel was picked up in a Brazilian village. It followed his English master even after he had been abandoned by his guides and had capsized his canoe. Weakened by malaria, and nearing starvation, Alan knew that the only way he could survive was by eating cashew. In his journal entry for July the 25th, he recorded, "Yesterday I killed my companion. Sharp blow with machete butt to back of skull, then slit the throat." 4 days later, Alan made it to safety. But when he published his experiences in his first book, Mad White Giant, the explorer was widely vilified. The RSPCA even visited him at home to check on the welfare of his pet dogs. Killing cashew was not the only controversy that arose from the book. Some seasoned explorers doubted whether Alan's account was entirely true, and an invitation to lecture at the Royal Geographical Society was withdrawn. Alan would later admit this book was unreliable when it came to factual detail. Nevertheless, the criticism rankled. "I think of myself as a very truthful person, and it upsets me if people think him a fraud." Alan has written extensively about his attempts to connect with people untouched by the West. "All expeditions became a bid to leave as much of the West behind as possible," he said. Adventure Benedict Allen standing in the back in Papua New Guinea with the BBC's Frank Gardner front last year. While many of the natives that Allen has encountered over his long career have been friendly, the explorer has found that some are less than welcoming. "When I was crossing the Amazon basin, I found myself being shot at and chased by hitmen," Allen recalled. They belonged to Pablo Escobar and had been seen by his camp where they were hiding out. "I was in a canoe and they were in their boats, so I just had to keep ducking until I could run into the forest." Allen made it to the trees, and hid among the vegetation. While his expeditions have brought to him great risk, they have also garnered acclaim. He is now a Fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, and regularly appears on television. His good looks have netted him an array of girlfriends, not least the model Hall. "He's well-spoken, posh background and hunky," said one observer a few years ago. He's got some wonderful scars on his body, too. It can only be hoped for the sake of his wife and 3 children that this very eccentric explorer escapes with little more than a few new marks.